Now here, on Bacon Bets, we're going to do some stock up and stock down. Which fighters' stock are going up and which ones are crashing down. In UFC 318, we've seen a lot of people's stock go up and go down. So let's just jump right into the video. Let's see who we need to invest in and who we need to sell off of. Stock up. Patricio Pitbull. Pitbull really bounced back from his bad Octagon debut and put it on Dan Ige. Like I said, other than he doesn't have too much activity, when he does throw, he throws. He throws with bad intentions. He almost finished Ige a few times. He looked really good. There still wasn't too much output, but like I said, when he wants those bombs to fly, they fly, man. And he cracks. He cracks. I think that this fight right here is going to put him in the rankings. It's going to keep him fighting top guys. I would like to see him against like a Josh Emmett. You know what I mean? Like give him another UFC guy who is older, and let's just see how he competes, right? Because I think he's a guy that you could kind of push up the division, right? Maybe get him in there against an Aljo eventually. That's another guy. They were both champs at the same time, different organizations. That would be a fun fight. But I think that now that Pitbull looked good and he beat a guy as credible as Dan Ige, I think that this has the UFC fans, the UFC brass kind of looking at him in a different light, right? They're not looking at him as, okay, here's a old Bellator guy that came over too late. They're looking at him as a guy that, all right, now we could put him in some real fights. Now we can get him going a little bit. So his stock's way up. I would like a little bit more activity, but overall, good job, Pitbull. So many people, including myself, talk about Kevin Holland is a legit contender at welterweight. If Kevin Holland takes it serious, he could be a champion someday. I have been on that train forever. Kevin, I thought you were going to destroy D-Rod. Destroy him. I thought it was going to look like the UFC was setting up a fixed fight. I thought it was going to be that one-sided. I thought there was just nowhere that D-Rod could compete with you, Kevin. And this is what you go out and do, right? You're showing that you're just as inconsistent at welterweight as you were middleweight. Sometimes Kevin Holland looks like he could be a world champion, and other times he looks like he shouldn't be on the roster. This wasn't that fight, right? He had his moments. He almost finished D-Rod in the third. He made it really exciting. I thought his takedowns were good. His grappling was good, but it's just levels, man. D-Rod should not be on your level, any aspect of MMA. I don't understand it. I don't understand what was going through your head, if you even trained for this fight or if you're just trying to cash a check. So Kevin, you're going to be the fun fight guy for the rest of your career instead of a real contender, like I think a lot of people thought you could be at this welterweight division. So that's the only reason I have Kevin Holland's stock so down. I'm sure in his head he doesn't care. He said it before. He's here to have fun, make money, and put on bangers, and that's what he did. So I understand from his perspective, he don't give a damn, right? But when you're a fan of certain people and you're a fan of the sport, you root for people and you want them to win. You want them to succeed, whether that's success to them or not, right? So yeah, I think Kevin Holland's stock would have been the most down if it wasn't for our next guy. Stock up, Paulo Costa. Borrachinha is back, baby. He got the secret juice flowing in his veins. Costa looked good, man. This looked like old Costa. He was out there looking for the finish. He was throwing volume. He wasn't worried about gassing out. He looked strong. He looked quick, and he looked healthy, right? The commentators kept talking about his health. And I haven't heard too much like online about Paulo being unhealthy, but you could tell the way they were bringing it up. That's something that Paulo brought up in the fighter meeting a lot. Right, he must have been talking about he finally feels good again. He finally feels healthy, and he looked it. He looked awesome. I said this in my UFC 318 recap. Make sure you go back on YouTube and watch that bad boy, right? Meow. But I said it then. I said the UFC loves this guy. UFC fans love this guy. I could see him getting a huge fight coming off of this, right? There's a lot of guys that are either top five, fringing top five, maybe, trying to get a title shot, maybe one or two fights away from a title shot. Paulo could be that guy. And Paulo could upset somebody else. And then Paulo could see himself fighting for the title. Him and Khamzat don't like each other. So there's beef there, right? UFC is also entertainment. There's a piece of it that's entertainment. It's sports and entertainment. I wouldn't hate seeing Paulo versus Khamzat with some beef behind it. Are you kidding me? Sign me up. So now, where Paulo was, if he lost his fight, he might have been out of the rankings. Now I could see it being 1 or 2 fights away from the title. So if that's not stock up, I don't know what is. Let's go. Drink the secret juice. Invest now. Stock down. 50K Dan Ige. I mean, this loss probably is going to drop him out of the rankings. And if it doesn't drop him out of the rankings, he's going to be at that like 15 spot. And I always thought that Ige was a gatekeeper, but I thought he was a gatekeeper for like the top 10. A gatekeeper for a guy that, okay, this guy might get a title shot one day. Now he might be the gatekeeper for getting a fight to get into the rankings. You know what I mean? Where I feel like this loss is going to really set him back. And it's unfortunate. I'm a big Dan Ige fan. I feel like he comes to the fight to hurt. He comes to the fight to finish people. And I think that this happening to him at this point of his career with his age against the opponent it was against, who didn't look good in his UFC debut, I think that a lot of people are going to be selling stock on Dan Ige big time after this. I think that UFC is going to match him up with the next up and comer and not just the next, decent guy in the division. I think they're going to get him a guy that UFC feels is going to be a killer one day. And I think that they're going to feed Dan Ige to him, and it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So, Dan Ige, love you as a fighter, but after your performance at UFC 318, your stock's way down, my friend. Now, in my humble opinion, the biggest jump in stock from UFC 318 is Vinicius Oliveira. I mean, this guy, this is one of those fights, right, where you gain fans. I could see Oliveira doing that to people with his performance against Kyler Phillips, because a lot of eyeballs were on this. It was Dustin Poirier's last fight. So a lot of people were watching, and Oliveira was a savage. I mean, the way this guy fights, the only way to describe it is exciting. He throws bombs. And then he's the biggest bantamweight ever. This guy doesn't look like a featherweight. He looks like a lightweight. He is gigantic. And he is just throwing punches from the hip, straight walking. It looks like he's walking through the park. He's just walking towards his opponent, his hands down, eating every shot, throwing big bombs, beating a guy in Kyler Phillips who's a legit bantamweight. Kyler Phillips is not a bum. Kyler Phillips is very good. And Oliveira just was walking him down like there was no threat. So yeah, in my opinion, Oliveira's stock is the highest after UFC 318. He has big wins in the UFC. He's undefeated in the UFC. He's a young guy. People are going to love this dude. He's super marketable. He comes out, he's happy, right? He's always smiling when he's in there. And then when he's in the cage, when the bell sounds, the smile's gone. He's just walking at you with disdain. He's walking at you with hate in his heart. Vinicius Oliveira. Stock is up the most after 318. Now, Daniel Zellhuber, your stock is plummeted. You put on a fight of the year contender at UFC Noche against Ribovic, right? A lot of people thought that you should have won that fight. It was an absolute war. And then they're thinking, oh, this Zellhuber guy, he's young, he's tall, he's like 6'8" in lightweight. Okay, realistically, he's like 6'3", but still for lightweight, that's gigantic. And he's a crisp striker. He has good grappling. He trains at a good gym. A lot of people were high on Zellhuber as being the next prospect at the 55 division. And maybe not the next prospect, but like a perennial top 10 guy for the rest of his career. And then you go out there and you get beat up by a 40-year-old Michael Johnson. I love Michael Johnson. Everybody loves Michael Johnson. But you don't get beat up by a 39-year-old Michael Johnson and then act like you're going to be a prospect. And the way Zellhuber was coming into this fight was like it was a foregone conclusion. And then before the fight, I'm watching the lines, and they're growing. Zellhuber starts at like a minus 550. Before the fight happened, he's a minus 770. So that means while the UFC event was happening, while 318 was going on, people were just putting money on Zellhuber. And then he loses. And like looks really bad. Does nothing. You get outworked by a near 4-year-old man and you're in your early 20s? That's embarrassing. And again, Zellhuber would probably wheel kick me and kick my head to the moon. But we're talking UFC level. We're talking a 39-year-old Michael Johnson. and you can't beat him. And not only can you not beat him, other than the third round, you got dominated. He was outstriking you in the first. He hurt you in the second. What are you doing, Zellhuber? Zellhuber's stock is way down, and it's going to be very hard for it to climb. Now, these are just my opinions. That's who I think is on the rise, and that's who I think is on the fall. If you agree, disagree, tell me about it. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Comment down below. Tell me if I'm an idiot. I don't mind being an idiot. I've been an idiot before. I'll be an idiot again.